Welcome to our channel, Book by Book. Today, we are taking on a book that is, well, it's less of a read and more of a total philosophical reset.
He really
It's
is.
become this global phenomenon, I think, precisely because it challenges our deepest assumptions about happiness, trauma, and, personal freedom. We are diving into the courage to be disliked, the Japanese phenomenon that shows you how to change your life and achieve real happiness.
And it's a book that really demands your full intellectual engagement. It's written by Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitake Koga, and it's this profound but surprisingly accessible exploration of Adlerian psychology.
Yeah, accessible is the right word.
The English edition, which came out in 2018, it just manages to synthesize these really complex psychological ideas and present them not as dry theory, but as a kind of urgent conversation.
And that conversational format is so key to its success, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's structured as a Socratic dialogue. It features a young man who is, a total skeptic, burdened by all these modern anxieties.
Right.
He's deeply convinced he's a product of his past. And he argues vehemently with this wise philosopher.
And as the listener or the reader, you're essentially given a front row seat to the complete dismantling of a victim mentality. It's incredibly dramatic and story-driven.
It really is.
And that confrontation is completely deliberate. The book's central premise is, well, revolutionary because it directly refutes the deterministic frameworks that so many people rely on.
The idea that our past is our destiny.
Exactly. The philosopher argues that our biggest limitations are not imposed by our circumstances, our environment, or our history, but profoundly from our interpretation of those things, our beliefs about ourselves.
I think we have to address the elephant in the room right away, which is the distinction the book draws between Adlerian psychology and Freudian psychology.
Oh, for sure.
Because Freud is often the kind of default lens through which Western culture understands trauma.
It's the necessary starting point. The young man in the book, he constantly retreats to this idea that past trauma, his childhood events or his ingrained personality traits are lifelong prisons.
It's a classic cause and effect view.
A classic cause and effect view. And Adler, and therefore this book, rejects that notion entirely. The past exists, yes, of course it does, but it does not determine your present actions. We are not defined by what happened to us,
But by what we choose to do with it.
by what we choose to do with the meaning we assign to what happened. And the truly liberating part of that is realizing you possess the power to change that interpretation at any single moment.
But I have to ask, why is that deterministic view so comforting? Because choosing the Freudian lens, that I'm just a victim of my past, it kind of removes responsibility, doesn't it?
It does.
If I'm defined by my history, I don't really have to change. If Adler is right, then the full weight of choice lands squarely on my shoulders. Isn't that terrifying?
It is absolutely terrifying. And that is exactly why the book is titled The Courage to be Disliked. It takes immense courage to accept that your current misery isn't inevitable,
That it's a choice.
that it's a choice you are making, often unconsciously, to preserve a certain lifestyle or to achieve a certain goal. The philosopher argues that people hold on to their trauma or, their convenient labels like shyness or anxiety
Because they're useful.
because those labels offer a safe, known explanation for why they don't have to engage with the world or risk failure. The deterministic view is the ultimate protective shield against having to change.
Wow. That brings us to the core concept spotlight then, the absolute bedrock of this philosophy. Purpose over past, or as they call it, teleology. Let's unpack this because everything else in the book really hinges on this fundamental shift away from causality.
Teleology is the study of purpose, of ends, of goals, and it is the book's intellectual pivot point, where causality says, because A happened, the cause, B must happen, the effect.
Teleology says something different.
It says, B is happening because you are seeking a specific C, a purpose, or a goal. The past is merely a resource you utilize to justify your present goal. It is not the force compelling your action.
So if I understand this correctly, the fundamental argument is you are not controlled by your history. You are controlled by the purpose you assign to your current behavior.
That's it.
Okay, to illustrate this for you listening, we need to go deeper than just one example. Let's look at 3 common behaviors where this idea of purpose over cause completely reframes the entire situation.
Great idea. Let's start with the classic example from the book. Avoiding social events, which the young man references constantly.
Right.
So the causal interpretation is, I avoid parties because I have social anxiety, which was triggered by an embarrassing moment in 7th grade. The past event causes the current avoidance.
But the Adlerian, the teleological view, just completely flips that on its head.
It does. The teleological interpretation is, I adopt the behavior of avoidance and the label of social anxiety for the purpose of achieving the goal of protecting myself from potential rejection or judgment.
So the past is just a handy justification.
It's a convenient story you tell yourself.
Yeah.
The symptom of anxiety is not the cause of the avoidance. It is the means you have chosen to achieve the goal of guaranteed self-protection.
That is a staggering reframe. I mean, because it immediately implies intent, even if that intent is unconscious.
Exactly.
Okay, let's take a second example. Chronic procrastination. Most people would label this as laziness or maybe a fear of success that stems from some deep childhood issue.
Sure, that's the common view. But if we use the teleological lens, procrastination is rarely about laziness. Its purpose is often protection from failure.
How does that work?
Well, if you never submit your project, if you always leave it until the last minute and produce something rushed, you get to preserve a very important psychological belief.
Right.
I didn't fail because I lacked talent. I failed because I lacked time. The goal isn't to be lazy. The goal is to protect your self-esteem and maintain the belief that you could have succeeded if only you'd tried harder or started earlier.
That immediately shifts the power dynamic. If procrastination is a form of protection, then the solution isn't motivation. It's about facing the fear of potential failure.
Precisely. And for a third example, let's consider anger. Anger often feels so involuntary, like something that just overcomes us.
Right, like you see red.
But Adler would argue that 99% of anger is manufactured. It is a tool, and its purpose is control or intimidation.
So if I start shouting in an argument, it's not because I'm so enraged I can't control myself.
Yeah.
It's because I realize I'm losing the argument and I need a shortcut to control the situation or maybe the other person.
That's the interpretation. The philosopher points out that if a phone rings mid-shout, you answer politely.
Yeah, that's true.
You switch off the anger like a light switch, which proves you were in control the whole time. You chose anger because you believed it was the fastest, most effective tool to manipulate the environment or force compliance. The goal was dominance.
Wow.
And recognizing that purpose is the foundation of true change because it shifts responsibility and empowerment right back to you, the listener. If life is shaped by your chosen purposes, then change is possible by simply choosing a new, more constructive goal.
That sets the stage perfectly for lesson 1, which is the immediate consequence of accepting teleology, the outright rejection of determinism.
Yes. Lesson 1 is the declaration. Trauma does not define you. You create your life through purpose. This is where the book explicitly addresses and dismisses the notion that the past dictates the future.
And for the philosopher, clinging to that belief that childhood trauma or past experiences are prisons is just.
It's simply a choice to maintain the status quo, a choice to not have to do the hard work of changing.
I feel compelled, on behalf of the skeptical listener to push back a little here.
Please do.
Isn't Adlerian philosophy a bit too harsh? I mean, when someone has genuinely suffered severe trauma, telling them that they are choosing their current difficulty might sound dismissive or even cruel. How does the book navigate that tension?
It's a vital tension, and the book addresses it by clarifying the definition of choice. Adler does not deny the existence or the pain of trauma. He's not saying it didn't happen.
Right.
He denies its power to compel your current action. The choice is not about whether the past event happened. It did. The choice is about the meaning you assign to that event and the purpose you allow it to serve in your current life.
So the past might have delivered you a difficult starting hand.
A very difficult hand. But you are still the one choosing how to play that hand today.
So we don't act because of what happened. We act toward a personal goal, and we use the past experience as kind of ammunition to justify that current goal.
The philosopher's focus is always forward-looking.
Exactly. When you avoid that job interview because of a past failure, you are not failing because of the past event itself. You're failing because your current purpose is to avoid embarrassment.
Yes, and you're using the past embarrassment as the reason why that avoidance is justified. It's your alibi. And the actionable item then it becomes crystal clear.
Which is that integrated diagnostic question. What purpose does my current behavior fulfill?
Exactly.
It's a moment of radical self-honesty that's required to move from being a victim to being an agent in your own life.
And this must be applied constantly. If you find yourself consistently sabotaging relationships, the purpose might be to prevent intimacy, thereby preventing the possibility of future heartbreak.
All right.
If you are perpetually angry at a family member, the purpose might be to maintain a power imbalance. Identifying the purpose grants you the power to consciously choose a different, healthier goal. Without that knowledge, you are just running an outdated script.
This analysis connects perfectly to the supporting concept that your lifestyle is a choice. In Adlerian terms, what exactly is lifestyle, and why is it so crucial that we can choose to change it?
Lifestyle is essentially the lens through which you interpret the world, yourself, and your place in it. It's a self-selected cognitive schema, a collection of purposes, beliefs, and attitudes that guides your behavior.
So it's your personal worldview.
Right. And crucially, the book emphasizes this lifestyle is largely decided by the age of 10, often unconsciously, as a strategy for survival and belonging within your family unit.
So a child who felt ignored might adopt a lifestyle where grand performance is necessary to gain attention.
Or, conversely, a child might choose extreme withdrawal to minimize conflict.
Exactly. That lens is not inherited. It's a decision.
And while it might have served a purpose when you were 10,
It may be crippling you at 40. And the immense difficulty, which the philosopher stresses, is that changing this lifestyle isn't about acquiring new knowledge. It's about having the courage to drop an interpretation that has defined your reality for decades.
so it's fundamental reorientation of the self.
It is, and the book assures us that because it was chosen once, it can be rechosen now. I love this analogy they use. Your past is like a book on your shelf. You can consult it, but it does not dictate which chapter you are writing today. It's a tough, but wow, what an empowering concept.
It really is.
Okay, so once we accept that our life is driven by our own chosen purpose, which is lesson 1, the next logical question is, where do we apply that purpose?
Right.
And that leads us directly to the world of other people listen to, the interpersonal world.
And lesson 2 is one of Adler's most cited statements. All problems are interpersonal relationship problems.
All of them.
All of them. The philosophical conclusion here is that genuine happiness is impossible in total isolation. And consequently, nearly every form of dissatisfaction, suffering, or emotional pain we experience stems from our interactions with others.
The young man in the dialogue, I mean, he spends most of his energy grappling with social comparison, jealousy, and this relentless need for approval.
And the philosopher states that this unhappiness is generated by 2 things: constantly competing with others and constantly seeking their validation.
If we connect this to modern life, I mean, the principle is more urgent than ever. We live in a society built on hypervisibility and instant comparison.
Oh, absolutely. Social media is the perfect engine for this. Whether it's financial status, career velocity, or family achievements, if you constantly measure your self-worth based on what others appear to possess or achieve, you are setting yourself up for perpetual inadequacy.
The finish line just keeps moving.
It constantly moves, and you will never catch up to the curated perfection that's presented online.
And that dependency on external validation is the second great trap. If my sense of worth is tied to whether someone likes my post or whether my boss praises my work,
You've handed the remote control for your emotional state to someone else.
right, I am no longer free. I am a slave to their opinion.
And that dependency is what fuels the relationship problems. If you need validation to feel safe, you will modify your behavior, you'll hide your true feelings, and you'll sacrifice your authentic self just to maintain that external supply line.
Which leads us to a crucial distinction the book makes between healthy and unhealthy comparison. The difference between inferiority and the inferiority complex.
Yes.
Let's clarify those nuances because they sound similar. Inferiority, the philosopher argues, is actually natural and often helpful.
Absolutely. Inferiority is merely the recognition of a gap. I am not as skilled at X as I'd like to be. This feeling motivates growth, study, practice, striving. It is a necessary catalyst for improvement.
Okay, so that's the healthy version.
That's the healthy version. But the inferiority complex is a chosen psychological tool. It is where you stop striving and you begin using that perceived inadequacy as an excuse for inaction.
Okay, give me an example. Say I want to learn a new language.
Natural inferiority prompts you to sign up for classes, to download an app, to start practicing.
But the inferiority complex.
The inferiority complex says, I'm terrible at languages, my memory is bad, and look at my friend who learned 3 languages by 25. I shouldn't even try.
I see. It's a rationalization.
It is a rationalization to protect you from the pain of failing to meet a perceived standard. The person uses their inferiority as a shield, saying, the problem isn't lack of courage, the problem is that I am fundamentally flawed. This makes the failure predetermined and external, rather than a lack of choice and effort.
And this choice, to use comparison as motivation or as a dead end, is reinforced by the type of relationships we build. Which brings us to the next supporting concept: horizontal versus vertical relationships.
These models define the dynamics of power and respect in all our interactions. Vertical relationships are based on competition, hierarchy, and comparison.
So someone is always superior, someone is always inferior.
Always. And this dynamic creates an endless cycle of anxiety because you're either worrying about falling from the top or you're striving desperately to reach it.
This is the default setting for so many corporate structures, or even traditional family dynamics, where parental approval is conditional on meeting these high, predefined standards.
Precisely. And the Adlerian solution is to deliberately choose horizontal relationships. These are founded on equality, mutual respect, and crucially, contribution. In this model, neither person is superior or inferior.
They're just different.
They are simply different, equal members of a community.
But hold on, doesn't that make things inefficient? In the workplace, for example, we need hierarchy and direction. How can you maintain respect and contribution while still needing management or guidance?
And that is a crucial distinction. Adler is not advocating for anarchy or ignoring expertise. He is advocating for respectful guidance instead of control.
So what does that look like?
A boss is still the boss, but they treat their subordinate horizontally as an equal human being who is contributing, rather than as a tool to be manipulated or a competitor to be surpassed. When you shift the dynamic from competing against your coworkers to cooperating and contributing with them,
The fuel for comparison is instantly removed.
gone. You are no longer measuring your worth against theirs. You are combining your worth with theirs for a shared goal.
That choice is fundamental to moving away from these interpersonal problems. If you stop seeing life as a competition for approval, you remove the constant fuel for inadequacy.
You're free.
Now we arrive at the concepts that give the book its title and its revolutionary reputation. Section 3 details Lesson 3, the transformative idea of task separation, and Lesson 4, the courage to be disliked.
And task separation is the practical mechanism of freedom in Adlerian psychology. Lesson 3 states it clearly. We suffer almost exclusively when we interfere in tasks that belong to others and when we allow others to interfere in ours.
Our anxiety arises from attempting to manage the outcomes of other people's lives.
Exactly.
Okay, this requires absolute, almost brutal clarity on boundaries. How do we define those boundaries? Where does my task end and theirs begin?
The book provides a really simple litmus test. Ask yourself, who ultimately experiences the consequence of this choice?
Okay, let's apply that. My task is defined by what I can control: my effort, my kindness, my choices, my preparation. Their task is defined by the consequence of my action and their response. Their feelings, their opinions, whether they decide to support me or whether they decide to judge me.
Perfect. Let's use a common scenario. A college student wants to drop out of law school to become a chef, and their parents are strongly against it because they are paying the tuition.
Okay.
The parent's task is to offer advice and express their concerns. The student's task is the choice of career path and, crucially, managing the financial consequences.
The parents interfere because their task is the worry about their child's financial stability, or maybe the desire to maintain social prestige by having a lawyer child.
Right, and the book says the suffering begins the moment the child sacrifices their choice to alleviate the parent's worry, or when the parent refuses to accept the child's choice and uses emotional blackmail to enforce compliance.
So the only way to resolve it is for both of them to separate the tasks.
Exactly. The parent must accept. Their career choice is their task, and I must let them face the consequences, good or bad. And the child must accept. The parent's worry is their task, and I cannot allow the fear of their disapproval to stop me from pursuing my own path.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me, because doesn't task separation risk making us cold or selfish or apathetic to the pain of those we love?
Yeah, that's a common concern.
How can I truly contribute to society, as required by a later lesson, if I am radically prioritizing my tasks over the needs of others?
This is the common misunderstanding of task separation. It is not about becoming detached. It's about responsible kindness. You contribute by acting on your task.
Which is?
Offering genuine support, providing resources, demonstrating love. You are not responsible for their choice, but you are responsible for the quality of your own support.
So if my friend is making a destructive relationship choice, my task is to state my concern clearly and lovingly and offer support when they eventually need it.
That's your task?
Their task is the choice of partner and navigating the consequences. I cannot force them to change.
And when you try to force them to change, you have ceased being supportive and have become controlling. You suffer because you are trying to manage an outcome that is fundamentally outside your jurisdiction.
The anxiety arises from trying to control perceptions, to make everyone happy with me. which is fundamentally impossible.
Impossible. The analogy they use here is highly effective for visualization. Your life is your garden. You must tend to your soil, your effort, your choices, your actions.
But you must not try to control the weather.
The weather represents other people's opinions and unpredictable external circumstances. The only way to stop suffering is to let go of the parts of the outcome that are not yours.
And that separation is the necessary pathway to lesson 4. Freedom comes from being disliked.
This is the central, provocative lesson that gives the book its title.
If the first 3 lessons teach us to define our purpose and our boundaries, this lesson tells us what the cost of those boundaries will be. The book states outright, trying to please everyone makes you a prisoner.
And we are biologically wired to seek acceptance. To willingly embrace the possibility of being disliked goes against, millennia of evolutionary survival instincts.
But the philosopher insists on it.
He insists that to live freely, you must put your values and your authenticity first, even if it results in others' disapproval. This is not about being rude or antagonistic. It is about choosing authenticity over conditional acceptance.
Can we analyze that central quote again? Freedom is being disliked by others. Well, what does that truly imply for the listener's daily life?
It implies that if you are living authentically, making choices aligned with your chosen lifestyle and purpose, then the disapproval of others is inevitable.
So if you're accepted by everyone,
it often means you are simply following the lowest common denominator, or you're constantly modifying your behavior to suit the needs of the crowd. True freedom is the moment you accept that disapproval is simply feedback on their interpretation of your life. It is not a verdict on your worth.
give us a detailed modern scenario where the courage to be disliked really applies.
Okay. Let's consider a career change in middle age. You may have a well-paying job, but you feel unfulfilled. Your authentic self wants to start a small, riskier, creative business.
Right.
Everyone in your established social circle, your family, your colleagues, they may disapprove. They might call you foolish, reckless, or irresponsible.
And if you allow the fear of their judgment, which is their task,
to keep you locked in the well-paying job, which is sacrificing your task, you have chosen their expectations over your freedom. The moment you act, you gain freedom, but you must accept that the consequence will be their dislike. You cannot have both universal approval and genuine freedom.
that metaphor of trying to hold water in your hands, the tighter you grip, the more you focus on pleasing them, the more you lose your authentic self, that just perfectly illustrates this painful trade-off.
It's a choice you have to make.
So if the first 4 lessons deal with the past, purpose, and other people, the final lessons 5 and 6, deal with the anchor point of reality, living in the here and now.
And this is a corrective measure for where we waste our mental energy. The book observes that people rarely live fully in the present moment.
We're either dwelling in the past, paralyzed by regret.
Or we're projecting into the future, paralyzed by fear and endless planning. Neither of those states is living.
The Adlerian emphasis is just relentless on this point. You cannot change yesterday, and you cannot predict tomorrow, but you can absolutely shape the process of the now.
And this links right back to teleology. If your purpose is always in the future, like, I'll be happy when I get that promotion, you postpone living today.
Right.
The philosopher dismantles the idea that life is a linear journey toward a peak destination. Life, Adler says, is a series of dancing dots, a continuous process of present moments. If you focus exclusively on the destination, you miss the journey.
And if you avoid relationships today because of past heartbreak, you are allowing a past dot to ruin your current dot.
You are living in yesterday's pain, not today's potential.
The simple analogy works perfectly. Driving while looking only in the rearview mirror guarantees a crash. We have to glance back to learn, but the sustained focus must be forward, or rather, right here, right now, on the immediate task.
And this commitment to the present moment is essential because it is only in the present that we can fulfill Lesson 6, the ultimate goal of the Adlerian life, community feeling or Gemeinschaftsgefühl.
That is a mouthful, but the concept is beautiful. It's the sense of belonging and contribution that the book states brings true, deep, long-term happiness.
And it is the remedy for the self-centered anxiety we talked about in Lesson 2.
Right, the competition and comparison.
The crucial mindset shift here is moving from self-interest to social interest. You have to shift from the mindset of acquisition, what can I get from the community, how can the community serve me, to one of contribution.
What can I contribute to this community? How can I be of service?
Yes. And critically, this contribution must be undertaken without the need for reciprocal validation.
That is the hard part, isn't it? If I do something good, my ingrained competitive nature wants a pat on the back, a promotion, or at least a public acknowledgement.
Of course.
If I contribute without needing an external reward, where does my sense of worth come from?
That is the genius of Gemeinschaftsgefühl.
Wow.
Your self-worth becomes intrinsic. When you engage in acts of service, when you contribute to the well-being of others, whether that's family, coworkers, or strangers, you generate an internal sense of, I am useful to someone.
And usefulness provides deep, unshakable confidence.
Unshakable confidence that external compliments can never match. If your worth is tied to your action service, it cannot be taken away by someone else's opinion.
This transforms our competitive nature. We're no longer competing against others to prove we are superior.
We are connecting with them to prove we are useful. The book uses that lovely analogy. A candle loses nothing by lighting another candle, and the world becomes brighter. Contribution is inherently additive. And tying all these complex lessons together, the book synthesizes the foundation of Adlerian happiness into 3 supporting concepts, the 3 pillars of happiness.
These are the culmination of the entire philosophy, providing a kind of checklist for the courageous life.
The first is self-acceptance. This means recognizing and accepting yourself as imperfect, flawed, and still entirely worthy right now.
So it's accepting the reality of your current abilities and circumstances without using them as an excuse for inaction.
Exactly. Second is confidence. This is the courage to act, regardless of the perceived outcome. Since you've separated tasks from lesson 3 and you've accepted yourself with pillar 1, you are free to try without fear of being fundamentally defined by failure.
And the third.
And finally, third, contribution. This is the ultimate purpose that ties you to humanity, the genuine sense of belonging that provides meaning. If you possess those 3 pillars, you possess the courage to be disliked, and you possess true freedom.
This has been an extensive look at a profoundly challenging but ultimately rewarding philosophy. For our book-by-book listeners, let's synthesize this message. The book's core lesson is that happiness is not something you find.
No.
It is a conscious decision rooted in courage. The courage to live authentically and stop seeking external validation.
The book demands a pivot from victimization to responsibility. You are the sole curator of your interpretations, and therefore you are the architect of your own life, regardless of the raw materials you were given.
Let's quickly recap the key actionable insights we've discussed for fast integration.
Okay. First, always reject the deterministic view. Your past is not a chain, it is merely a reference. You choose your purpose today.
Second, identify whose task you are interfering in, yours or theirs, and ruthlessly separate those tasks. Stop trying to control the weather.
Third, replace competition with contribution. Move from asking, how do I compare, to how can I be useful here?
Fourth, recognize that inferiority is a motivation to improve, but the inferiority complex is a rationalization to halt action. Choose to be motivated.
And fifth, live exclusively in the present moment. Focus on the current task, the current dot, because that is the only place where true life and action exist.
Okay, now let's turn those 5 concepts into specific, practical steps you can apply immediately to start choosing courage and happiness right now.
Step 1. Stop seeking approval. The philosopher assures you that you do not need permission from anyone else to live the life you have chosen.
Step 2. When anxiety strikes, stop and ask, what purpose does this behavior serve? Pinpoint the goal: protection, dominance, avoidance, and that knowledge gives you the power to choose a different path.
Step 3. Practice radical self-acceptance. Acknowledge your imperfections, but use them as starting points for improvement, not as excuses for retreat.
Step 4. Seek out opportunities for service. Actively focus on contributing value to your community and allow that usefulness to define your worth, not a compliment or a title.
Step 5. Be ready to be disliked. Understand that if you live honestly, disapproval is inevitable, and it is merely their task to deal with their own perception of your choices.
Step 6. Consciously choose a new interpretation of your life's events. If you've been viewing your past failures as proof of inadequacy, choose now to view them as lessons in resilience.
Step 7. Cultivate horizontal relationships. Treat everyone, your boss, your child, your neighbor, as an equal in humanity, contributing together rather than competing against each other.
And step 8. Live honestly. Authenticity is the ultimate antidote to the prison of external expectations.
The core of this book, and the essential takeaway, is that achieving happiness isn't a long, winding, or difficult path. It requires the immediate decision to embrace the responsibility for your life and the courage to live according to your own values, even if you are misunderstood.
So we leave you with one final provocative thought, a reflection on the title itself.
The courage required to be happy is inseparable from the courage to be disliked. When you finally stop making others' opinions the metric for your self-worth, you gain the freedom to define yourself. This liberation of self is the courageous choice that makes happiness possible today.
That is the profound liberation contained within. The courage to be disliked. If you found value in this discussion and the way we broke down these challenging concepts, we strongly recommend picking up a book and undertaking the dialogue for yourself.
It's well worth the read.
And before you go, please make sure you subscribe to the Book by Book channel for more such helpful book summaries like this video and share it with others.
It really does help.
Knowing that these breakdowns are helping you navigate important literature motivates us to keep bringing you the best book summaries.
Thank you for joining us on this deep exploration of freedom and self-worth.
Until next time, choose courage.
Choose wisely.